Any good acting has behavior with it.
Nate, why? Why such bitterness? What have I done to you? Get out! You're no nephew of mine. As far as I'm concerned, you're as dead as that wretch Cermak.
You have to embellish the words with a certain amount of gravity. Because we're talking about things that are really important here, that are kind of secret. There's a natural kind of darkness when you talk about noir. You know, it's great. I love it.
Although edited for television, tonight's thriller contains scenes of suspense and violence which may be unsuitable for young viewers. Parental discretion is advised.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and the perhaps never to be defined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, moi, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm Robcasting at you. You, imagination connoisseurs. You members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community, right here from the Robservatory. I'm Robcasting Robservations episode number 1110. You know, today was a busy day. You know, I got up, I did some work. We had a Designing Hollywood interview with the production designer of the Cape Fear television series. Did that. Then, of course, we had a member call with the members. I love seeing you members. It's so much fun. It was a small call today. I know the notice went out fairly late last night. That was my fault. But it went out. Then did some more work on White Devils, our movie that I am a producer on. We're getting it ready for its release in January. More on that, of course, in the next coming months, which is why I was a little late. Then I had dinner also. Actually, I had dinner with a friend of mine and a person I'm involved with the movie poster sale. So today was a very busy day. Worked on a movie, and of course, I've been working on this book as well that you'll hear more about. This week, Alvaro Zaina Samaro, who, of course, as you know, if you watch this channel, he's been on this channel. He wrote the book Equimedian right here, a love letter, an homage to 70s science fiction, and the great Stubble McShave, all the way from Sweden today, showed that he rocked the hardcover. He bought the hardcover, and he's going to read it in Sweden. So that was very exciting. Thank you, Stubble, for doing that. So busy day. Now, Alvaro and I went and saw, on Thursday, we went and saw a triple feature. We saw Supergirl, we saw The Death of Robin Hood, and we saw Girls Who Like Girls. Kind of the spectrum of films. We start out with a big-budget Hollywood blockbuster, an A24 film from the director of Pig, and then, of course, an indie darling directed by a first-time director based on her song and her novel. First-time feature director. And I have to say it was a very interesting movies that are in theaters today. What is making money? What are people going to see? What kind of things? Incredibly diverse in terms of the kinds of movies that are out there. And in one day, you can run the gamut. By the way, I think both Alvaro and I thought The Death of Robin Hood was great. There's already people talking about, well, it's another deconstruction of a great British hero. I would say it's the Unforgiven of Robin Hood movies. I loved it. I thought it was great. As I put it, it was like watching a Dead Can Dance album come to life. Probably Aeon, if I had to pick. Somebody asked me which one. Would it be like Spleen and Ideal? No, I think it's Aeon. For those of you who don't know, Dead Can Dance, why don't you know? Lisa Gerrard, who was in Dead Can Dance, did some of the music. She collaborated with Hans Zimmer on the score for Gladiator. I love Dead Can Dance. I love the band. It's fantastic. They're on the great 4AD label that in the 80s I used to collect everything that was on that label. I had every 4AD CD. I was a big 4AD freak. I don't know what that says about me, but that's what The Death of Robin Hood was like. And look, it's a slow, brooding film that has brilliant cinematography, an unbelievable performance by Hugh Jackman. It's interesting that my two favorite movies of the year, and I'm not kidding, are The Sheep Detectives and The Hunt, or The Death of Robin Hood. I was going to say The Hunt for Gollum. But I love them both. I mean, those are why I go to the movies. I mean, I've liked a lot of movies, but those are my two favorites of everything I've seen in the theater this year. Supergirl. You know, when James Gunn started the new DC universe, I was very excited. I got to work with James Gunn a little bit on a movie we made a long time ago that was directed by Craig Mazin that James Gunn wrote called The Specials, about the world's 7th greatest superhero team. Very low-budget movie that Mindfire Entertainment, a company that I co-founded, we made it after Free Enterprise, and it stars people like Rob Lowe, it stars Jamie Kennedy, it stars James Gunn, Paget Brewster, and it's Sean Gunn's in it. And I really enjoyed it. James Gunn wrote the script, and he plays Minute Man. And I really became a huge fan of James Gunn on that project. I also later read his novel, James Gunn's novel, The Toy Collector, which is very dark. And I've really enjoyed, the movies he's directed. I like Slither and Super. And, of course, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I think it's a really great trilogy, one of Marvel's best trilogies. I might prefer Captain America, The First Avenger, Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Captain America Civil War more, just because they appeal to me more. But I really do enjoy all three Guardians movies. I like Guardians 2 probably more than most. I really enjoyed James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. And he has definitely a certain sensibility, enjoyed his Peacemaker. So when he and Peter Safran, who is one of the architects of James Wan's Conjuring universe that includes The Nun and Annabelle, and of course the Conjuring movies. And Peter Safran is James Gunn's longtime collaborator, lawyer, business partner. Peter Safran was involved in the Specials back in, 2000? 1999, 2000? So they've been together for a very long time. When they took over the DC universe after DC had middling returns. Now, I want to say something. I don't think that the DC universe movies were necessarily terrible. Like if you look at how the DC universe began post Batman The Dark Knight Rises, they decided to compete with Marvel, and they were, quick recap, they were going to start, Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder were coming in, and Zack Snyder had already done 2 comic adaptations for DC. He'd done 300, obviously, and he had done Watchmen. Watchmen's one of my favorite comics of all time, and I thought the movie, while it was a great recreation of Watchmen, I thought as an adaptation, it was hit and miss. But that's not what the show's about. That's a whole different show that I've never done, but maybe one day. But I have to give Zack Snyder all the credit in the world for trying. He did a wonderful job recreating that comic. Clearly, the love was there. Man of Steel. I loved Man of Steel. Now, I loved Man of Steel not as much as a Superman movie, but as a science fiction first contact film. I appreciate what he did. It was very Götterdämmerung, very operatic, very Wagnerian, and I liked it. I didn't think, however, it was the best representation of Superman. But I understand why Zack Snyder's Snyderverse gained a lot of followers, because that film is the way the whole Superman mythos lives in many people's imaginations. Very serious. A very serious version of the Man of Steel. And I thought Henry Cavill was perfect casting. Really enjoyed the film. And to be fair, along those lines, I have to say that I did like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. I enjoyed the Ultimate Cut better, a lot better actually. But I think that movie went down a wrong path. Ben Affleck's Batman is amazing. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, terrific. But that film, it goes so dark. I mean, when people are being blown up in our capital, and it's such a dark film. It's trying to do too many things, and it's so, as I've said before, it's very, very joyless, that film. And it's look, Superman should put a smile on your face. There's nothing wrong with being serious, but you also have to understand, you got to go back to first principles. Now, I don't want to say that he shouldn't fly. He should only leap tall buildings at a single bound, but you have to remember where that character came from. And I like serious takes on characters, but Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, it's too far in one direction. Wonder Woman, the Wonder Woman film, I thought, while the generic villain kind of at the end, but I thought it struck the perfect balance. I thought, and I was hoping, desperately hoping, that Ben Affleck was going to be able to direct his movie where Batman fought Deathstroke the Terminator. I thought that was, what a great idea. One of the great lost films. I wish we could see it. And I can say that I won't relitigate the Justice League debacle, but I very much enjoyed Zack Snyder's Justice League when we finally got it. I didn't think it would ever happen because, no, it didn't exist in a final form. Zack Snyder himself admitted it only existed as an unfinished black and white movie on his laptop. And everything I said about it was proved to be true, and they had to put $70 million into it to finish it. But anyway, I did very much enjoy Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I do consider Man of Steel, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League to be a really interesting, unique, operatic, Wagnerian, Ring of the Nibelung cycle version of the DC universe. And I'm happy that exists. I don't think it's for the masses. And clearly that was proven out. But I'm glad it exists because it's an interesting, in my dreams or in certain Alex Ross paintings or Giclées that I've owned, that's the way the Justice League lives in my mind too. But anyway, then we got a DC universe that was up and down. I like James Wan's Aquaman, not as much the sequel. Blue Beetle was fun. You know, Black Adam was fun, but it was generic. And Shazam, I didn't like the first one. I like the second one more. And sue me, come at me, bro. I like the Flash. I like Sasha Calle's Calle. Is it Calle? Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Badass Supergirl. Greatest looking Supergirl costume ever, I think. I love that costume. I need to get that hot toy. But I enjoyed the Flash. Is it perfect? No. But I enjoyed it for what it was. So when the reboot came, and then James Gunn and Peter Safran, they created a whole new studio, DC Studios, and James Gunn talked a lot about what he was going to do. And the thing that most intrigued me was the idea that he would be building out the DC universe, and the first phase of which it would be called Gods and Monsters. I was all in on that. Now, I was very curious because the DC universe, if you grow up with, as I did with the DC universe is giant and expansive. And when I think about the DC universe, I think about the 30th century. You can't not. I think of the Legion of Superheroes. I think about the planet Ron, where Adam Strange is from. I think of Thanagar, where Hawkman is from. I think of Apocalypse, and New Genesis, where the New Gods are from, and Kirby's Fourth World characters. I think about all those things. And to me, the DC universe is big and bright and expansive and huge, like everything's a 4-color Krell laboratory from Forbidden Planet. That's how I think of, and it's definitely got a Silver Age sensibility. Look, I love Marlon Brando's portrayal of Jor-El in Superman the movie from '78, but I also love the comic Superman Jor-El with the sun on his chest and the green. I do love that vision. By the way, I did love Zack Snyder's '70s prog rock album cover vision of Krypton. I mean, yes, Close to the Edge 2, Krypton could have been an album they wrote if you went by the look of all that. But that's what I expected from James Gunn and what I saw in Superman. Now, did I love James Gunn's Superman? I liked it a lot, but I felt that it was a film that had half of it cut out. I felt that what we were getting was almost a Cliff's Notes version of the movie that he made. But it definitely leaned in to a Silver Age sensibility. It was bright. It was colorful. You had kaiju and pocket universes and crypto and all the Fortress of Solitude that rises up out of the ice. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but what his Superman told me, that was the template. He set the table. And the new DC universe was big and it was bright and it was definitely, decidedly Silver Age. It had Batman and the Outsiders as opposed to The Dark Knight Returns, if you understand that reference. And I thought that was a good way to go. Very, very much a DC universe that was far more science fiction-y, less fantasy, but had a lot of, super science in it than we'd seen before. I would say that Zack Snyder's DC universe, while it was very science fiction-y, was more science fantasy than it was science fiction. Whereas James Gunn was kind of leaning in, sure, it's all fantastical because it's comic book characters, but leaning toward more science fiction-y elements. So I was very excited for Supergirl. And Millie Alcock, I thought, coming off of Game of Thrones, I totally understood why he cast her. I was like, outstanding. She's a fantastic actress. And I thought it was, to follow up Superman and Supergirl, I figured they would fit together. And I was a little taken aback by the portrayal of Millie Alcock's Supergirl in the end of Man of Steel, Superman, when she shows up. It's hard to talk about all the stuff. Everything's a jumble in my head. And I didn't mind that she was a drunk party girl, because that was fun. And when they talked about the fact that they were going to adapt Tom King's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, I thought, what a great thing to do. It's a hardcore story, but again, I thought it would lean in to a sort of science fiction, colorful sensibility, a sensibility that where we kind of got, this looks like Mobius, it looks like we're going to get heavy metal or metal hurlant, how you pronounce it in France. We're going to get something that Inky Bilal or some kind of European style, crazy. You know what? I'll say it. Valerian, a Valerian-esque type of a Supergirl, where we're going to get all kinds of crazy planetary landscapes and, whether it looked like Fantastic Planet, one of my favorite animated movies of all time, if not it is my favorite animated movie of all time. I thought, what a great way to go. Now, I had read early on, I think there was an interview that James Gunn gave, 2021, and Tom King talked a lot about how this story was like the Western Shane. And I'm like, wow, a science fiction Shane that looks like a European comic drawn by Mobius and printed by or Humanoids Press or something. I was like, I'm in. And, I understand what's happening in that storyline. So I was intrigued. And then when the people involved coming out, I understood. So Craig Gillespie gets hired to direct. He made Cruella, which had some really great fantastical conceits. I enjoyed Corella probably more than many people did. I thought it was terrific. He directed Lars and the Real Girl with Ryan Gosling. You know, he made I, Tonya, which I thought was terrific. I know why they picked him to direct, because of the way he was able to elicit great female performances, and Emma Stone's Corella was one for the ages, you know, and obviously it makes sense to hire a director like him to work on a film that has two female-centric protagonists. However, nothing in his filmography says he is at all deft with the kind of DC super universe, Kirby-esque, Mobius-esque, all the things that I thought were important, because James Gunn and Superman sort of set the table. Obviously, they probably cut it down for time. It was 2 hours. I'm willing to bet there's a 3-hour cut of that movie there somewhere that I really want to see, that I think would have been more satisfying, to be honest. Superman felt very truncated, but he set the table, and he showed us the kind of universe that we're going to get. And I thought, okay, I am there for this. I'm there for this. And I know Supergirl is going to be a different kind of a story, but what you're going to get from Supergirl is a glimpse of the larger DC cosmic universe. We know the Guardians of Oa exist. We know the Green Lantern Corps exists. I'm hoping Thanagar exists. I mean, I don't know which iteration of Hawkgirl that's supposed to be. I would imagine she's not supposed to be from the planet Thanagar. But if Adam Strange shows up, who knows? But I did think, I expected, perhaps obviously now as I've been proven wrong, I thought I was going to get a big, wild, colorful, imaginative, visually stunning universe that Kara Zor-El was going to go into. Now, the only reason I thought that is because, well, the comic book that they were adapting seemed to say, you know, that yes, indeed, we were going to get a crazy, like, look at these images. How would you have liked to have seen something like this on screen? Maybe not this total color palette, but, you know, something that evokes landscapes and feelings and things that you've never seen before. And ironically, I went to see Supergirl. And, you know, it opens on a spaceship, very much like the Milano. And Supergirl obviously is tying one on. She's on her pub crawl because it's her birthday, as she says. But here's the thing. Supergirl didn't grow up on Earth. And I understand that she lost all of her loved ones. She lost Krypton, but at least she got to stay in her neck of the woods for about 14 years. And then she got to make it to Earth and got to see Superman. What we see is a very human-centric portrayal of a teenage girl who's now a young woman in trouble. Depressed, substance abuser, has a problem, like in the comics, because she's got survivor's guilt. But what I found really interesting is the first thing you find out is she's in a spaceship. Now, this is world building. And for me, who's somebody who's always looking for verisimilitude, the first question I asked myself, and I knew this was the case because we saw it in the trailers, I'm like, why does Supergirl have a spaceship? Now, she's come to Earth. And obviously, the yellow sun of Sol, our sun, has imbued her with great powers. And I understand that, but she doesn't, as a galaxy-traipsing girl who has now a faster-than-light spaceship where she can go anywhere, obviously the different star systems she chooses to party in make her very, very different, depending on where she is. And to me, and the fact that she has this spaceship, this is DC Universe world building. And everything that we are going to see is going to get filed away to tell us more about the greater DC Universe. The next thing we get is lanterns. And the Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians of Oa and Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner and John Stewart and I mean, or anybody else, Kyle Rayner. These are all people that are adding to the tapestry of the DC universe. So I figured that Supergirl was going to give us a really interesting door opening, whether it's an antechamber or a foyer or a mudroom, whatever we're going to call it. We're going to see what the rest of the DC universe, we're going to get a little taste before Green Lantern. What I didn't expect is how humdrum that universe is. Everything about Supergirl was, I hate to say this, third and fourth iterations of rehashed ideas from movies that go back to all of the Italian Escape from New York ripoffs or Road Warrior ripoffs in the early 80s. I joked on Twitter, the movie should have been called Supergirl, The Destruction of Jared Sin. I'm sorry I'm being a little harsh. But the rest of Supergirl, it looked to me to be a low budget, full moon / New World, whether it's Corman or whether it's Charlie Band. I mean, this movie looked right out of Galaxy of Terror or Forbidden World. And I understand their template in the comic was Shane. So they think, oh, okay, space western. But does everything have to look like, does every planet have to look like it only has one ramshackle bar? I mean, of course, there was an urban environment, but for the most part, is this the universe? This universe should be, I would think, a universe of awe and wonder. When James Gunn showed us space in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when the Guardians went to nowhere, which was that the mined out, repurposed head of a Celestial, where you're going to Xandar with the Nova Corps. These universes, these civilizations had super science, and you had all kinds of really interesting visual stuff that was in the background, but all of it is world building. And I found the film really off-putting and really lacking. I understand Craig Gillespie is an Australian American, so maybe he grew up with the Mad Max films, which, by the way, I love. But Krem looked like somebody from a rip-off movie from the 1980s. And what's so strange is, why does that not bear any resemblance to the character in the comic? I mean, you couldn't have a more one-note depiction of a villain. Now, we all know heroes are only as good as the people that they are fighting. And, I go back to one of the great modern villains in cinema, even though it's 1988, it was 38 years ago, Hans Gruber in Die Hard. He's this impeccably dressed Brit with a neatly trimmed beard and a great accent. He knows a lot of things. He's very worldly. And he's immediately an endearing villain that we love to hate. But we love him. He's a great character. And he's a great foil for John McClane. Well, if you give us a bargain basement, like, I do not understand, with the entire pantheon of DC Comics, what is it? We're almost 75 years plus of DC Comics. Are we at 100 years yet? I mean, there's so many great alien visages, alien worlds. There's so many things they could have done. And we got, why go that direction? Why not lean more into the Mobiusness of it all? Or even the fifth element of it all. I mean, if you want, make space like the fifth element, not like Earth, but go to Floston Paradise. Go somewhere where there's a sense of awe and wonder to the cosmic infinitude of space. Now, this is just me. You can't review a movie for what it isn't. But I do think that Supergirl promised us something because we had source material it was taken from. And I thought all of the design choices in the film were surprisingly lackluster. They're they certainly didn't live up to DC Comics. And again, I think Supergirl was probably a 3-hour movie that they truncated down because they had to. You had 3 different composers. You had Junkie XL, certainly, and Ramin, I can't pronounce his name, Dawaji, the composer of Pacific Rim and, of course, the Game of Thrones theme and Game of Thrones. But his score for Pacific Rim is great, which I love it. And, I mean, Junkie XL gave us the soundtrack to Fury Road. So, I know that's Mad Max, but... So I'm watching the film, and I just... And also, you know, Kara is while Krypton was lost, and her home was lost, and her family was lost, the fact that she gets to come back down to Earth, and, you know, her cousin Clark, you know, Kal-El, I mean, Earth, she could be famous. She could have she could embrace an entire world would embrace her. And I know she's having a hard time, but what they did was they really played up the fact that she is essentially a troubled girl from Earth. I don't believe that an alien who grew up on Krypton before it blew up and then spent the rest of her time with the remnants of her civilization, I don't believe that she suddenly would become, you know, a beer-swilling, moody teenage girl. She's from a super science-wielding culture. And yes, great tragedy, but would tragedy manifest itself the way it was manifesting in this movie? Again, it should all be world-building. The question that I would ask is, what does a girl who's barely out of her teen years, who grew up in it, what is the science fiction Kryptonian equivalent of a moody teenage girl? Why does she act like a moody teenage girl from Earth? Apparently she's not been here very long. And we've never, you know, Clark says, or Superman says in the movie, why don't you stick around? You know, you're never going to acclimate to your new home. So she hasn't been here very long. And yet she acts like half the college girls I knew at the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. Why is that? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And okay, who is this movie for? Like, who is the audience? I know it's for everybody, but, and I hate to compare and contrast this, but look at Captain Marvel, the first Captain Marvel. Take away the Brie Larson of it all, but that movie had science fiction concepts, science fiction people. You know, it showed you different alien realms. You had Super Skrulls. You know, you had the Kree and the Skrull. It was both a science fiction film and an Earthbound film. Carol Danvers had her issues too. But I had a lot more fun with the first Captain Marvel, which, by the way, I did see in the theater 4 times, than I did with Supergirl. Which, to me, I thought was fascinating. But the thing is, Supergirl, it also not just had to tell the story of Kara Zor-El, it needed to build the bricks onto the DC universe as it grew cosmic in scale. Because the next project that we have coming from them is Lanterns. And I don't know if there's much of a cosmic element to that. But you're building on what Supergirl should have let us glimpse. We've seen the cosmic infinitude a little bit, but apparently everybody just has shacks where they drink. I mean, none of that. I know Krem was not a very richly drawn character in the comic either. But we don't even get a sense of who these characters are. When Lobo shows up, now, we know, I'm a longtime comic reader, you know, when Lobo was introduced, I think in the pages of Omega Men, which is another great comic, the Omega Men. I love the Omega Men. Introduce any part of the Omega Men, and that's what we should have. She should have gone into the Omega Man comics. You know, let's meet all those people. But Lobo, people, like, everybody thinks that who is Lobo? when we meet him, we don't know who he is other than the comics, Bastich. We don't know anything about that guy. We don't know anything about who he is. We hear about him, but we don't know anything about him. Why don't we have a scene where he's introduced? Why don't we have a big scene, a big action moment where we get to see him doing something? How do you not give Lobo a proper introduction? You can't assume that the audience knows who he is, because they don't. A lot of us do. A lot of us imagination connoisseurs. But you have this great character, obviously with the perfect actor to portray him, and he becomes just another outlaw on a bike. You know, he's from any other generic biker action movie you've ever seen. And other than the fact that he chews on his cigars and he has long hair, and somebody mentions he's probably immortal, his character, as all the characters are in this movie, are all generic cliches. Even though, hey, Momoa plays Lobo terrifically. But because he wasn't given any more of a character other than, if you brought that same character to Earth and put him on a Harley, he would have been no different. Other than the fact, you know, maybe some of the weapons and things he wielded, people would have said, "Ooh, where'd those come from? DARPA?" You know, I mean, it was so frustrating to watch this film that should have engaged my imagination. I never once felt my sense of wonder engaged. I never once had a moment where Kara flies above the clouds and you hear the score. I mean, when Superman gets energized in Superman Returns has so much more awe and wonder in this film, because she's still, after all, Supergirl. And they're building out this great universe. This movie told me that the DC universe is just not that interesting. It's generic. The design, we've seen it before in the 80s. There was nothing in this movie that made me go, wow, that's so cool. Not one thing. Kara has a spaceship that we know nothing about. Where'd she get it? Why didn't they have a scene where maybe she talked to a used spaceship dealer to get it? Where did she get that? If she comes to Earth and suddenly she just has a spaceship that she can fly anywhere in the cosmos, well, why would she even stay on Earth? What's the motivation? Just because Clark's there? I mean, wouldn't it have been more interesting if we got to see, like, instead of her on her spaceship, that we spent like a week on Earth with Supergirl? What is a day in the life of haunted Supergirl, of Kara Zor-El, trying to acclimate herself to Earth, when she could fly all over the planet in a day? Why didn't we have some of that before she's, you know, even the setup of her being the moody teen is generic and cliche. And we're just supposed to buy into it because, oh, her room's a mess. And, oh, her dog peed on the floor. I mean, this, you have to, what is the Supergirl equivalent of this? If you just turn her into a generic Earth human being and dealing with her problems in a generic Earth girl way, you've missed an opportunity to show us a character in a way we've never seen that character before. I mean, Kara Zor-El, as portrayed in this movie, was absolutely generic. Absolutely generic. As was everyone else. And I hate that I think that. I hate that this movie is like that. Now, again, I like Millie Alcock as an actress. I thought she was great. I really did. And Momoa is great too. But they're not given anything to do. They're given the bare minimum. They're given the most or least imaginative material I can think of. And James Gunn said, look, we're not going to move forward with these movies until the script is magic. Well, not only apparently was this script not magic, they had to do extensive restructuring of the film in post. 3 different composers? the reason that happened is because they were hoping the music would carry the film. Didn't do that, nor did the score that they went with. Now, I have an article that I'd like to read. Now, I'm reading this article because I found it in Time magazine, and it was written by a female critic, which I thought was necessary. Here's the article. Supergirl is a dull, dispiriting, fake feminist film. And this was written by Stephanie Zacharek. Stephanie Zacharek. Now that the golden age of the blockbuster superhero comic book movie is supposedly and thankfully over, fans of last decade's Marvel and DC pictures should be demanding more, not less. Amen. Will there be rioting in the streets once audiences get some idea of how lousy Supergirl is? Probably not. At the screening I attended, a trio of good-natured fanboys/influencers sitting behind me. Before the movie started, they'd been chattering loudly about comic book-related entertainments they'd either recently seen or were excited about, chortled performatively at a few of the movie's opening jokes. But as the film wore on, silence. Here was a movie they wanted to like. I wanted to like it. I wanted to. Here was a movie they wanted to like. But there's no way on Earth, or certainly on Krypton, that it could have met their expectations. Supergirl, a spin-off of 2025's sub-mediocre Superman reboot, may have been conceived to rev us up. How long are we going to settle for movies that just wear us down? It's not the movie star Millie Alcock as Superman's cousin Kara Zor-El, a.k.a. Supergirl, that's the problem. As the movie opens, Kara is having a booty existential crisis. A boozy, not a booty. Although I would have to, well, never mind. A boozy existential crisis. Her parents, played in flashback sequences by David Krumholtz and Emily Beecham, with more tenderness than the Enterprise demands, are dead. As their home planet of Krypton was being destroyed, they decamped to a floating colony known as Argo City, hoping to raise little Kara in safety. But survival there was impossible, like her cousin Kal-El or Superman before her. Kara was placed in a pod and catapulted to Earth for her safety along with her scampish dog Krypto, but her adjustment to her new planet has been hard. The superpowers our yellow sun bestows upon her prove to be a burden, so she's parked herself, her dog, and her ramshackle traveling trailer on the planet Holzer, where, because she has no superpowers, she's free to enjoy the effects of alcohol and party herself into a stupor. She's drinking to forget. Soon we'll know exactly how she feels. Now, I would ask, I know it's in the comic, but she came from a planet that was destroyed, and then she lived to be 14 in Argo City, knowing that their time was a gift. But do I believe that an alien girl coming to Earth for the first time would, I mean, as we've seen, the Scottish Tartan Army came to Boston and drank the city dry. God bless you, Tartan Army. But Kara wants to leave just because, what, the yellow sun prevents her from getting drunk? But Kara's party time is interrupted by the arrival of a tough teenage girl who's out for vengeance. Eve Ridley's Ruthie has just seen her whole family brutally murdered at the hands of the villainous Krem, the leader of a group of violent space marauders known as brigands. Brigands! I mean, it's not like that isn't an Earth word. I understand, but hey, come on. She wants Kara's help, but Supergirl has no interest in sisterly solidarity. She's too busy camping out at the local watering hole with creatures who look like cheap knockoffs from the Star Wars Cantina scene. Then Krem poisons Krypto in an unpleasant and overly manipulative scene that's too much, even though we know we're basically looking at a special effects dog. He's clearly supposed to be adorable, but he bears so little resemblance to any real dog you might know that he's effectively charmless. Well, I disagree with that. As the creature lies slowly dying on a table of a local healer, Kara vows to find Krem, who wears a little vial around his neck holding the antidote to the poison. She has 72 hours to save Krypto. Though she's still uninterested in helping Ruthie, the two stumble into what's basically an interplanetary human trafficking ring, and Kara is forced into action. See, sisterhood is powerful after all, and it makes a good look or good hook from which to hang a fake feminist movie. The basic idea of sex slavery, perhaps just a little too grim a plot point for a PG-13 fantasy? Well, maybe. But even if you can overlook that, Supergirl, directed by Craig Gillespie, has so little to offer. Kara's adventures take her to several planets, each with a different colored sun. So why are all of them rendered as variations of murky brown? The action sequences are jerky and disjointed. Supergirl's laser beam eyes constitute the only occasional, if inadequate, jolt of life. The gags are both belabored and feeble. Occasionally, Kara will utter some kind of pithy truism. He sees the good in everyone and I see the truth. Really? What truth is that? You're depressed because your family and planet are dead. But what truths have you experienced on Earth? Have you come up against people like Lex Luthor before? Is Krem the first villain you've had to fight? We don't know anything about that. I would assume because half this movie was probably cut out. She observes solemnly, in reference to her goofy, gallant superhero cousin, but she clearly can't see the truth of the dull, dismal movie around her. David Cornsweet makes an occasional appearance as Clark Kent Superman himself, and in these brief moments the film raises a weary head. If only for an instant. Alcock does have some feisty charm, but it takes an awfully long time for her to merge in her spiffy red, blue, and gold Supergirl outfit. Kara spends most of the movie in a drab, dust-colored coat, her blonde hair trailing around her shoulders in unwashed clumps. She's like the final straggler at an outdoor festival, refusing to go home for a bath long after the last band has packed up their gear and left. But other actors in Supergirl suffer even worse fate. Where's a terrific actor like Schoenart's doing in a piece of junk like this? As the baddie Krem, he's almost unrecognizable. His sensitive, chiseled face is dotted with silvery piercings, which, by the way, where'd you come up with that? I mean, was this cool? Was this attractive? I mean, you have a villain in a cosmic superhero movie that looks like a reject wearing foam parts from a Mad Max Italian ripoff from 1984. Why? Who looked at Man of Tomorrow or Woman of Tomorrow? Who looked at that comic and then looked at Schoenart's in his outfit and said, "Let's go with this guy"? Who looked at that? Thought that? I don't know. His hairdo is basically a shaved head adorned with an anemic ponytail. The role acquires basically one expression, a mechanized scowl. If you've seen Schoenart's in movies like Rust and Bone or The Mustang, you'll know he has so much more to offer. Every actor needs a paycheck, but it's still dispiriting to think that a performer like Schoenart's can't be put to better use, even in a throwaway superhero movie. Welcome to the new Hollywood, or what passes for it. It's the coldest planet of all. I can't disagree. Sorry I didn't do such a great job reading that, but I can't disagree with this review. I mean, when I was thinking about, you think about Luc Besson's movies, like The Fifth Element. Valerian I love, but it's miscast. But anyway, look at the imagery in those movies. Imagine if Luc Besson directed this film and not Craig Gillespie. It's almost as if Craig Gillespie wanted to do everything he could to literally bring this movie down to, well, not the Earth, but a planet. And it's like he never even bothered to do any research into science fiction. And I think the real problem with this film is that you've turned your main character, Supergirl, into not a citizen of the galaxy. She's become the citizen of Earth and not of this cosmic infinitude she comes from. And the thing is, her entire upbringing, her outlook on life would be so different from ours as to be unrecognizable. I would much rather see in a movie like this, how does a Kryptonian deal with grief? You know, show us the way it's different than Earth people deal with grief. And if it's the same, does it have to be so spot on? Why do that? I want to know what an alien's grief looks like. Somebody that understands we live in a universe teeming with life. Where we don't, on this planet, we don't know if there's anybody else. Disclosure hasn't happened yet. But to think as a race that we're alone in the universe because there's been no evidence, we've had to turn to whatever God you turn to give us solace. But a girl like Kara Zor-El has a second lease on life. Actually, a third, really. She got off Krypton in Argo City when everyone else perished, and then she made it to Earth when Argo City perished. And she still had kin. And I thought all the decisions in this movie were the anti-decisions of what they should have been. And I don't understand how this whole development process happened. Where's the promise of the great DC universe that we were given? Where's the extension on what they set up with Superman, a sort of Silver Age DC universe that has kaiju in it, that has pocket universes in it, that has Green Lantern, that has Mr. Terrific, that has, well, let's face it, Hawkgirl, who may or may not be from the planet Thanagar. There was much more wonder in James Gunn's Superman. And if you are going to emulate Shane, does it have to look like Shane? Although Shane does it have to? And I just think that this movie failed me on an imaginative level. It did not instill. Every single Superman movie I've ever seen has instilled some sense at one point in the movie, a sense of awe and wonder. That's why I love those films. You know, I'll tell you something. This is not any big moment, and it's a simple camera gag. But I'll give an example. When I saw Superman the movie, there is a montage where you're seeing Superman rescue people. But in the middle, in those montages, they set up the sequences, and you see a cat burglar crawling up the side of a building, and he's got the suction cups, and then he goes high enough. And now, keep in mind, they're filming this. The cat burglar is just on the floor. That's it. It's on the floor, but the camera's tilted. You know, it's following him, and he's going like this. And then you see Superman standing. The cat burglar comes right up to Superman and falls backwards. But there's a shot where you see the cat burglar like this and Superman just standing straight up. It's a simple camera trick, just where the camera's positioned. But you know what? When I was a kid and saw that, seeing Superman just standing on the wall, like Spider-Man, you know, he's got his fingers out and you know that he's, but when Superman's just standing on that wall, there was something magical, a simple camera trick. When he's just standing there and the cat burglar is right underneath him, that evoked more awe and wonder in the 11-year-old I was when I saw Superman the movie than anything in Supergirl. There was nothing in Supergirl I haven't seen before. And how can that be? How in this day and age does a Supergirl movie that takes place on multiple planets in space not give me a sense of awe and wonder? Or just wonder. And I think that's where this movie really failed. It failed the imagination. Everyone's imagination. Because the thing is, it gave us a Supergirl character that we could understand, albeit cliche. And her friend was fine. You know, she was, I understand her parents were killed. We don't really quite understand. I make weapons, and then they're going to kill this guy? Like, that was a little abrupt, and the whole family dies. And if you're a weapons maker, you don't have any kind of defenses. Like, this is the first guy that wants to come and take your amazing swords and your amazing weapons, and you have no defenses in your house? Like, was he the first guy? Did you ever think that anybody might show up and be like, I would like your weapons, sir? None of it made any sense. And I don't know if I should lay the blame. I just want to say one last thing, and I don't want to pile on. But Anna Nagaria, who wrote this movie, She wrote one short film, and she'd been an actress before this. Now, hey, maybe she's the Orson Welles of superhero writing, but evidenced by this script, not so much. She'd written one screenplay, and this was it. And this screenplay had to be restructured. I don't understand. 3 composers worked on this film. And let me say something else. This is going to be maybe a pet peeve that you might think is going too far, too nitpicky. In Guardians of the Galaxy, Peter Quill has his tape. He's got his Walkman. That's why there's needle drops from Earth. Why are there needle drops in this movie? Why are aliens singing Earth songs in bars, in dive bars in this movie? It drove me crazy. I'm like, you haven't earned that. Guardians of the Galaxy has a reason why there's needle drops in the film. They are literally a fabric of the story. They are the music that Peter Quill bequeathed to her son before she died. That's why they're there. Why are there needle drops in this movie? Now, I understand you can have needle drops in films and action sequences to score an action sequence, but on a planet in space, we're given no reason, no logical reason, and I didn't think any of the very obvious needle drops worked. Every time they started, and the score, by the way, this movie cried out for some kind of a symphonic score. You needed something, like when Supergirl revives with a yellow sun. Give me a theme that she can, like that great, what John Ottman created, that beautiful theme in Superman Returns, where Superman comes back from the dead. There was none of that in this movie. And I'm just perplexed. I'm all the plexes. I don't understand. Why did this happen? How? Now for wrath, now for ruin, and a red dawn. You know, how has it come to this? I don't know. I really don't. And I was perplexed. And I was dismayed by the failure of imagination and by the failure of this movie to build upon the DC universe that James Gunn started in Superman. I feel, if anything, this took the entire DC universe back. And I feel really bad for Millie Alcock because she deserved better. She deserved better. And when we're seeing so many imaginative things around us, when I watched the trailer for Moana, a movie I really have no interest in seeing, but that movie has a lot more awe and wonder in it than the entirety of Supergirl. This is a problem. And I don't know why this happened. And I don't know. We deserve better. Millie Alcock deserves better. And Craig Gillespie, God bless you. You've made some movies I've liked. But you were miscast. That was the greatest, perhaps, miscasting of the whole film. I just think you don't like comic book movies, man. I think you wanted to make Shane. I think you wanted to do a remake of Shane in space, which you could have. But, you know, talk about Westerns being remade in space. Go back and watch 1980's Battle Beyond the Stars, a low-budget Roger Corman movie that is a ripoff of The Magnificent Seven that is itself a remake of The Seven Samurai. There is far more wit and verve and fun in Battle Beyond the Stars. And there's a great James Horner score that rips off Star Trek The Motion Picture, but so what? I mean, you have Sybil Danning as Saint Exmund of the Valkyrie in Battle Beyond the Stars. I don't know. What do you guys think? How do you feel about it? There's a lot of super chats that have come in, and I want to get to them and see what you guys think. Are you as frustrated as I was by watching this film? Damn it. I wanted this movie to be... I wanted it to be good, man. So, this first super chat... hang on. Let me... comes from Joseph Claps. Says, hey, Rob, how many more projects would need not to be good for DC to reboot? And as an aside, if Gunn leaves, does DC reboot or continue in this universe? Would people even accept another reboot of DC? You're awesome, as always. Should the MCU post... Well, actually, this is another... You have another thought here. I'm sorry. Well, Joseph, it's a very good question. Look, I think that we're getting Man of Tomorrow, which I'm actually really looking forward to. I really hope it's great. Brainiac, I hope it's a great film. I'm really looking forward to Lanterns, and I'm looking forward to Clayface. But in terms of universe building, I honestly, this is not... You know what this universe is? It's ordinary. I mean, it might be fun, but it has no gravitas. It has no weight. Superman, it was fine, I guess, but it seemed like it was truncated from the 3-hour-long movie it was going to be, and they cut it down to 2 hours to be safe. This movie is the same thing. I don't feel we've actually seen a real DC Universe movie yet. Maybe Lanterns will change my mind. Maybe Clayface will change my mind. But you know what the thing about the DC Universe is? It's mythic. It's not about demigods. It's about gods. It's about larger-than-life gods. The feeling... I did not get the feeling from James Gunn's Superman that Richard Donner's Superman instilled in me. Or watching Max Fleischer's Superman cartoons. Or watching Justice League Unlimited. The animated series. Hell, the George Reeves live-action series from the 50s. I think David Cornsweet is a great Superman. I really do. I want to see him in a mythic movie. Mythic. I think that, unfortunately, the DC Universe right now has no foundation. It could blow away in the wind at any time. James Gunn really needs to lean into the mythic nature of these characters. They're too not larger than life. I understand making them relatable. But, the MCU did a great job of taking these characters and making them both relatable and larger than life. It's a hard thing to do. But the thing is, everybody wants to love these characters. We go in wanting to love them. We're already yours, James Gunn. We already belong to you. The thing is, I feel that both of these movies, if anything, the universe that I wanted to see built before me, that I could look forward to inhabiting again, which is something, the MCU's universe is our universe. It's our world, right outside our window. The DC universe should be something different, something heightened, something more science fiction-y. And it wasn't. So in terms of reboots, look, I think that if Lanterns, Clayface, and Man of Tomorrow are not great, I think that we might, our DC universe might be over because, look, we've got 2 movies in the DC universe. One of them did well. It didn't break the bank, but it did well. And it did well in secondary markets. But Supergirl, you know what? Being 1 for 1 in a new universe ain't good. And that shouldn't have happened. Because James Gunn's 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies are all good. I liked The Suicide Squad. I mean, the man put Starro in a movie. I never thought I'd see that my entire life. But he did. Look, I want to love these films. I go into every movie wanting to love them. They're so hard to make. I just find that this film foundationally had a lot of mistakes. It had subject matter right there that it was drawing from. But it didn't, none of the designs were adhered to. I still don't know why Kara has a spaceship. Where'd she get it? Did she buy it at a used, where did she even go to buy that spaceship? I don't know. Does she just has one just because? Is that from the comics? I don't remember that, but who knows? Anyway, Joseph Claps goes on, and he has 2 more. And by the way, he's being very supportive with Super Chats. I really want to thank you for that. Joseph said, should the MCU post-Secret Wars have everything under the mutant saga, or should each corner of the MCU get their own mini-saga? I ask since the multiverse saga had a lot of things that weren't multiverse-related. Plus, besides X-Men mutant teams, Fantastic Four, Spidey, Avengers, Black Panther, do you think Marvel will do movies on the Midnight Suns, Dark Avengers, Annihilators, Nova, Inhumans, Blade, or future Guardians, Greek Gods, Hulk, and other Doctor Strange or Shang-Chi? It's a great question. I really think they're going to lean in to the mutants. I think that, will we get a Doctor Strange 3? I hope so. Will we get a Shang-Chi 2? Yes, I would imagine so. Here's what I think. If you were to ask me, and I don't know what they're doing post-Secret Wars. I don't even know how Secret Wars is going to work. But if you bring back whatever the world looks like after Battle World, whatever the universe, your single universe, chalk it up to sorcery, whatever. Here's what I would imagine. I would imagine that you are going to have our OG characters that are still alive. I don't know if we're going to see resurrections. Like, I don't know if, like, Tony Stark as Iron Man is going to come back conjured up. I don't know if the dead can be conjured up. I don't know what the rules are. But I don't know if Tony Stark's coming back. But I could definitely see all of our other characters. And because if you bring Doctor Strange, it's Tony Stark back, and Black Panther, I don't know. It could be weird. But let's say you could. Or not. I would imagine that our old school characters like Chris Evans, I think he'll stick around. Like Thor, stick around. Make another. And they'll set them up as, I don't know, whether they're going to be the Illuminati, like we saw in Multiverse of Madness. You could have a pantheon. And they could, if you want to make a movie about them, you can. But I would think what they're going to do is lean into the new stuff or lean into the X-Men. Lean into the whole mutant saga. There's 10 years of movies there. I mean, if they do them correctly, you're never going to miss the old school Avengers. You have 40 movies. But those characters would definitely be secondary. They'd be secondary players. I mean, I know because I was heavily into the X-Men. I read some other Marvel books, but I just read mostly the X-Men comics in the 80s and 90s, and then I would read crossover books, and I did buy like Byrne's Fantastic Four run, and I did read like Simonson's Thor or Peter David's Hulk, and I liked all those things, and you could enjoy those things. You could enjoy those things and still enjoy the X-Men, which is what I was heavily into. So I think they'll probably play it like that. If they want to do a Shang-Chi movie, they can. If they want to introduce a new character, if they want to do an X-23 movie, maybe they could do that. But I guess she's an adjunct of the X-Men. But, I would like to see the X-Men can give you the Lilandra, the Shi'ar Empire. You can do all of that. I read some, I love the idea. I love this idea because I love in the Hickman time on X-Men, there was Avengers, X-Men, Eternals. And when the X-Men started to resurrect on Krakoa, that means the Eternals code. These people have progressed too far. So the Eternals their mandate was, well, now that the X-Men have defeated death through the Krakoan era, they got to go. And the Eternals had to take them out. I'm like, well, that's a way you can bring the Eternals back and make that shit work. I could see that. I would love to see something like that happen. I mean, that would be fantastic. Would it be great? I don't know if it'd have to be very deftly written, but we'll see. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I'm deliriously excited for Doomsday. I can't wait. Doomsday is a straight-up sequel to Endgame. And don't let anyone tell you any different. That's why they're re-releasing it. Straight-up sequel to Endgame. And I think it's going to be great. Major Chai Chai says, anybody else kept hearing, hello, my name is Naga Montoya. I'm here to kill you. Every time Ruthie began her oath in Supergirl, yes. Naga Montoya, I love The Princess Bride. It's so good. But yes, there was definitely that. Everything in that movie reminded me of some other movie, some other better movie, and that's not good. Royston Bailey says, why did Gunn hire that writer? Don't know. Don't know. A first-time writer gets to write that movie? Don't know. Resting Derp Face became a member, became a PGS hero. Well, thank you, Resting Derp Face. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you. Hernando Estevez says, R&B, we know it's been on the mind all day. Don't even hide it. A celebratory happy 20th to a much classier film with an S on its chest. Superman Returns. Well, yeah, I mentioned it a lot today because I've been thinking about Superman Returns. Many people know that I'm in that movie. For a brief moment, you can hear my voice. I play the NASA reporter that's on TV that Clark and Jimmy are watching before the shuttle disaster. And I did a documentary that's on the Blu-ray, a 3-hour documentary called Requiem for Krypton, making Superman Returns. I spent 2 years of my life working on that film, and it was great. I was in Australia during the entire filming of that movie, and I have a soft spot for it. But that's another movie. I'll say it. I'll flat up say it. There's a better version of that film. It's a half an hour longer, and they did not test those movies, but they had friends and family screenings. And a lot of people that saw it, especially the younger people, the first 20 minutes of that movie as originally made, there was no dialogue. People didn't understand the return to Krypton, so that was taken out. The beginning was truncated. And Kal Penn's character never even speaks in the theatrical version of Superman Returns. There's a much better movie. I really hope, on the 20th anniversary of Superman Returns, I really hope that Arrow has a deal with Warner Brothers to put that movie out. They can't put it out in native 4K. They'd have to do an upscale. But I'll tell you what, buddies. I have hundreds of hours of video I shot in the set of Superman Returns that no one's ever seen. And I'd be happy, for a small price, to help you make more special features for the disc. So there we go. So yes, you were right that it has been on my mind. Yeah. Let's see. Joe Panora has been a member for 39 months, and Kenny Colton has been a member for 42 months. Monthly residuals, Rob. The Odyssey is about 18 days away. I can't wait. Cannot wait. Jason Nelson says, isn't Safran's job at DC to rein in Gunn and shape him? Well, I don't know about that. They're co-heads of the studio. They're equal. And you know, obviously, Superman, the first Superman, made money, and it also did extremely well in the secondary market. SVOD and the ancillary markets, it did very, very well. Joe Panora goes on to say, did you check out Citizen Vigilante? It had Charles Bronson vibes. I've only seen clips. It's wild to see what's happening with that movie. But yeah, it's totally like Death Wish. It's totally like Robert Ginty's The Exterminator. It feels like a total throwback to a 70s movie. And I understand why people are mad about it, because it's an unrepentant exploitation movie the way we used to get, that we don't get anymore. So yeah, I mean, Hernando says, Superman Returns is better than Superman 78. Really? Why? Structural discipline. We open with Lex Luthor off the bat. Story is afoot ASAP. Superman 78 is an hour before Lex Luthor comes in, and Superman Returns is a better ABC structure. Well, Hernando, I would like to point out that we had never met Superman on screen before, unless you saw Kirk Allen in one of the Superman serials, but nobody had when it came out. You had to introduce Superman. You had to set it all up. You had to set up the mythology. And I have to say, opening Superman Returns, Superman 1978 with, you know what? Tell you what I'm going to do. Since I'm live right now, I haven't done this in a while. It might not work, but I'm going to do it anyway. We'll see. Because this would be appropriate since we're having this conversation. So, Let's see.
Welcome to the message management system.
They're not there. Oh well, hang on. You know, I'm gonna leave a message. Let me call back and leave a message, because you know what? You never know when you're gonna get a call back. We'll see. You know what? I'll text. I'll text, because that person never picks up their messages. Oh. Hey, man.
Hey.
I was calling you because I'm doing a live show about how I didn't like Supergirl, and all of a sudden, there was all this love coming in about the 20th anniversary of Superman Returns.
Actually, it's 20 years. I didn't know it was.
20 years. So,
Wow.
Might I put you on live for a minute and ask you?
You can put me on live. Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, only on the Burnettwork, Mr. Brian Singer joins us tonight. Brian, it's been 20 years since Superman Returns, and how do you feel about the film now?
Well, this, to be honest, I didn't realize it until just this call that it's been 20 years, so that was something to hear. Besides feeling old, let me think. It's one of those movies that at its time, because there were certain expectations after the X-Men pictures of what I was meant to be doing with a summer movie about superheroes, that kind of wasn't what was expected of me, and it kind of missed the mark. And so there was, and I also felt that it was long, and I got no pun intended, but mired in it, and we did it. We did it very quickly, as you may remember, Rob, because you were there. It was from no script to screen was 2 years, which is
right.
Very fast for such a big endeavor. And a lot of the visual effects that you can do now, you couldn't be done then. We were inventing all kinds of things to make him fly, and all the stuff that wasn't available as is today. My feelings at that time were very mixed. Now, in retrospect, it feels like what it was always meant to be, a love song to Richard Donner's Superman the movie, which I adore. And I also I do feel it still is a bit long, and some of it's a bit, it has moments that are a bit corny, and yet it has some moments that are very some a bit too earnest, but some moments that are quite beautiful and elegant. I think John Ottman wrote a beautiful score.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny. Before I called you, I was talking about the moment where Superman regains his powers and he goes up into the atmosphere and he rejuvenates himself in the yellow sun, and that piece of music John wrote there is unbelievable. And
yeah, it's a very beautiful cue. And another one during his night flight with Lois over the city that leads into the John Williams. But prior to that, that's something I'll actually just I don't sit down and watch my own films often ever really, but in some cases, I'll click that on just to listen to that cue as well. And yeah, in the context of the pantheon of a character that was born so many almost a century ago, and that's gone through so many transformations and so many iterations from the television series to the Donner film, and then far many other iterations since Superman Returns. It occupies a unique space in the pantheon of Superman. It's its own kind of thing. I now, in retrospect, feel better about than I may have at the time.
I totally agree. I mean, I think
so.
the Art Deco design of the film is very beautiful, and the film has such a great sense of romantic yearning and love lost, and the fact that Kal-El and Clark can feel that, and the audience can feel that. I think one of the things about the movie was people just weren't expecting that in 2006. I mean, you'd brought the X-Men into the world and X2, and there was this explosion of superhero films that people were experiencing, and they wanted a certain thing, and you came.
Well, it's the summer. You want your action. You want your, you want that, you want an action movie. And instead, I was making sort of a love quadrangle between Clark, Superman, the Richard character, and Lois, and it was just, and Devil Wears Prada counter-programmed against us, and I think we lost our female audience there, and. I think, it just, I mean, it still did good business, but not like, what was expected, and because it wasn't what people were, expecting out of me. And I just was, I was quite much younger then. I was kind of blind to that. I just thought, well, I want to make this for this reason because it means something to me. And there are, Guy Dias' production design is extraordinary. In fact, Steven Spielberg hired him. In fact, my one fan letter from Steven Spielberg and Kathy Kennedy was for Superman Returns and Jerry Seinfeld. These are the only time I got fan letters from these big time people was for that movie, oddly enough. And then Steven hired Guy to develop something with him.
Robopocalypse, which didn't happen.
Yeah, which they didn't end up making, but he was on that for a number of years actually. But
Guy did Masters of the Universe, which is in theaters now.
I know he's been texting me from Masters of the Universe. He's been from the set. I've been getting the report. Well, not now, but when it was in production, I was getting a lot of reports from him, and we were really catching up and talking about old times, and and talking about the old movie, the original movie, and and what he was experiencing with the new one, and it's. It's been kind of fun catching up with him. Guy and I go through these periods where we don't talk for like a couple of years, and then suddenly he just fills me with stories because as a production designer, he's always there listening in, so he always has great stories for me.
I read that he's going to Chile to work on a film.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's amazing.
I think he's been down there because he sent me pictures.
He
discovered an airfield with a whole bunch of these derelict planes that he's getting for free, like millions of dollars worth of derelict airplanes in an airplane graveyard. He just sent that to me, so that might be from there already.
Yeah, he's working on it's something in Some Revolution. The famous director. Well, I don't want to keep you, but I wanted to ask. I just figured I'd ask because the film. I have such fond memories because I was I watched every bit of that movie being made with you guys, and even before, you had me come down and shoot Brandon's screen test without telling me why I was showing up at the studio, and I was still working on. I was about to go back to New Zealand on Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and no, you have to come down to the studio now. And I'm like, why am I here? I had no idea. And then I saw Brandon working with Kerry Russell. And
Kerry Russell, yeah, she did me a favor. I knew her back then quite well, and she. It was Lois Lane, and we shot it in 70 millimeter.
I know.
I remember that.
Absolutely astonishing. But I look back on that movie, and like you said, it has a unique place in the Superman mythos, and it does have. I mean, do you want to see superheroes deeply involved in emotional love triangles or not knowing who and what they are?
Probably not in the summer when you But I was I didn't think about that at the time.
But I think now when you can just look at it for what it is, you can appreciate the filmmaking is exquisite. Brandon does a great job. I think Kate Bosworth will never get the credit she deserves for her Lois Lane.
She was so good to work with, and a real talent. And it kind of nips me sometimes when people are like, Quentin and I, because Tarantino is interestingly enough. I'll tell you a little something he told me recently when we were in Israel. He had never decided to write about other movies until he sat down and wrote a 10-page treatise on Superman Returns.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, it's true. No, and I'll tell you, and he never published it or given it to me either. But the premise was, and I said, well, what was unique about it? Why did you bother doing that? And he said, because most superhero movies are based on a comic book or, IP. Your movie was actually a superhero movie based on another movie. And he said, and he found that to be different and unique, so he thought he would analyze it, and that analysis, as he told me, led him to believe that that he was capable of analyzing other pictures and writing books and criticizing or reminiscing about them, and so I was very honored by that. I thought that was kind of cool, but it also could have been that when we were all waiting in the first class lounge to go fly to Australia to make the movie, Quentin was waiting in the lounge to go to New York. So we all powwowed about the movie, about what we were doing with Quentin, and then they called our flight first, and as we were going to the plane to the gate, Quentin yells out, "You keep making those superhero movies, and I'll keep making those movies where people talk about superhero movies." So that was kind of funny. But so who knows? But yeah, the reason I say, and it's because it's separate. There's always been sequelizations of these franchises or combinations of Superman or Superman versus Batman and stuff like that. Superman Returns is kind of floating out there as its own thing, and now that it's on VOD, if it feels a bit long or you want to pause it, you can pause it and take a break. So it might be digestible in a very different way, and. So if you're looking for, what James Gunn did, which is really awesome and fun and great. There's a kind of tone of a Superman movie, and if you want to see something more earnest and stoic, and then you see mine, or if you want to see the original, you go back to Richard Donner's. So there's and then the other ones in between, Zach's and all the other ones.
Absolutely. Well, happy 20th anniversary to Superman Returns. I remember going to the premiere party and all those long hours in Sydney. It was incredible watching that movie.
Oh yeah, I got starstruck. I was with my family at a table, and they brought Mark Hamill up, who wanted to congratulate me. I was like, holy shit, it's fucking Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
Can I say shit?
Yeah, it was a great time working on that film, and I'm proud. I'm glad we got to document it. But I do want to do, if we can, if Errol will do it, that friends and family version, that even longer version.
Yeah, so there's plenty of footage there.
Bonus features, and I've got thousands of more tapes that we didn't use.
Well, friends of mine just recently watched your Return to Krypton piece because they wanted to see behind the scenes with me in it. What
did they think?
They loved it. Oh, it was amazing. They couldn't believe all the tank work and all the water work and all the crazy sets and the buildings and the humor that was put into it and the whole thing. It was so they were like really and me and what I.
Well, it was like you. I approached everybody as a character. You were a character in that movie, and so exactly. And Guy Dias and everybody.
Yeah, and everyone is, and believe me, everyone was a character.
Yeah, everybody was a character. James Marsden doing you was hilarious.
Yeah, right. Dogs. Yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Puppies. Well, listen, man, happy anniversary. It's good to talk to you. I hope you're well, and we'll have to catch up. I still need to come back. I still want to hold that one thing you have in your house. I won't say what it is live on the air, but I want to hold it. And I want to read the letter from the person who gave it to you.
Oh, yes. There's a few things you should see.
I know. Cool. People are like, what do you want to hold of Brian's? Yeah. His sword, actually.
It's hanging on the wall. So.
Yes. All right, man. Well, thanks for calling me back. This was great. People are probably looking at me going, is that really? What? Really? But yes.
I know. It's always, whenever I see your name come up, I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, I'm talking more than just Rob tonight.
Yeah.
So,
well, enjoy your evening. Have you seen anything lately that impressed you in the theaters? You seen a movie that you've liked?
I haven't been to the theaters. Oh, yes, I saw Obsession, and I loved it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it was, because I'd done movies at that level, at the, 18-day shooting schedule level, obviously my first film and stuff like that. So I really wanted to see what they did, and it was awesome. It was really, it freaked the shit out of me. So great work. Good on them for pulling that off.
Nice. Well, man, I'll let you go, and always a pleasure, sir.
All right, talk to you soon.
I'll see you.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Singer celebrating the 20th anniversary of Superman Returns. Let me see. So there you go. Hernando, it's because of you liking Superman Returns better than Superman the movie. Royston Bailey says James Gunn isn't professional enough. I think James Gunn's very professional. I really do. I mean, I think that it's his sensibility. I mean, having seen him actually work, he's incredibly professional. I really like James Gunn a lot. I mean, I used to spend, back when we made these specials in the early 2000s, there were a lot of parties and things we would go to, and I always liked him very much. Attack Story says, R&B, you've converted my cold heart. Why are you not the new writer for the new Star Trek? I don't know if I'd be, to be honest, people always say that. I don't think I'm experienced enough, and I don't think I know enough to write a great Star Trek screenplay. However, I would love to produce or direct something like an episode of Star Trek, but I would love to run. If I was given a choice, if somebody said, what would be if you could do anything on Star Trek that you want, I would want to be a producer, a supervising producer of the show, and I would like to oversee the writer's room. I would like to hand pick a writer's room for Star Trek. All people I know that I think would kill it. And I would probably have a premise for it or something like that. But I am not a skilled enough writer to write Star Trek. But I have been writing something about my experience of Star Trek and what I think about Star Trek that I hope that I'm going to be dropping soon. A whole book, actually. It's kind of I'll tell you more about it later. I want to finish it first next week. Solo says, greetings from Way Too Hot, Germany. Yes. I'm not doing a show. There's no Let's Get Physical Media tomorrow with Dieter because it's too damn hot. Royston Bailey says, $200 million film should be 2.5 hours long and excellent. I agree totally. Retro Meister says, since last year, I've had a gut feeling that Supergirl was going to be the Captain Marvel of DC based on the issues of pushing feminist messaging and attacking the fans. Jason Momoa's Lobo didn't live up to the hype. Well, I think Jason Momoa's Lobo didn't live up to the hype because they never gave him an intro. You don't know who he is. Who is Lobo? Why should we like him? Give him a little bit of a backstory. By the way, I mean, did he blow up? Did he destroy his own planet? You could have played off like Supergirl and him. Well, I don't want to get into things that weren't, but I think you can't have in any movie, I don't care how well people know characters, you can't have a character like Lobo just show up. You have to not assume people even know who he is. If I were to take somebody that didn't know anything about comic books, they wouldn't know who Lobo was. And that movie did a terrible job of introducing him. Give him his own introductory scene. Retro Meister says, you all are better off watching classic episodes of Superman the Animated Series with Kara and Lobo. Plus, Brad Garrett's Lobo was far more entertaining and hilarious than Momoa's. Again, they didn't give Jason Momoa enough to do. Stephen Langford says, what's up, Rob? I liked Supergirl. In my opinion, the best parts of the film involved Superman and Lobo. I like Supergirl. We're Supergirl and Lobo. I've been waiting for your Supergirl rant. Thanks. Happy birthday. 200 Watt Studio says, the Brigands sound like a lot like the Ravagers to me. I mean, that was the problem. Brigands. You can't come up with something better than Brigands? I mean, give me, here's another Burnett rule for you. if you're making a science fiction, fantasy, or horror film that has all kinds of mythology and you're going into fantasy worlds or things like that, generic words are no fun. You know, give me a word that is unique to the universe that you're showing. Give me something that is unique that I can remember. You know, I mean, it's, yeah. Royston Bailey says, so, not the creme de la creme of movie villains. Touche. That is funny. That is very funny. Very well done. Not the creme de la creme of movie villains. Billy the Kid Lawrence says, don't leave me hanging in the Twitter DMs, my man. Apologies if I caught you at a bad time or anything when I'd sent my message. Much love. Oh, yes. No, I need to get back to you. I apologize for that. I will. The Brujo, member for 13 months. 45 minutes in. Good, I only missed the warm-up. How to D1. Oh, D&D1. How to D&D 1. Would re-editing Supergirl fix some of the issues? It wouldn't fix the milieu issues and the fact that they seem to be at every bar as the same issues. But I don't know. I mean, I don't understand. I think I would have liked the movie to open with the stuff in Argo City to give it scope. You open a Supergirl movie with a pan, by the way, that we've seen in the trailers for the last year. Give me scope, give me epic, give me comic book, give me a sense of wonder. Please, that's all I ask. Jordan to Watch Studio says, the scene in Reeves' Superman is also a great character moment, as Superman has a twinkle in his eye. He smiles, and the movie audience smiles. Yes. Yes. Kenneth Crayley sends in a super... Is that a super sticker, Ken, that you've sent in? I want to thank you for that. Savage is at Helios 1. Savage Helios 1 says, do you think actors should keep their political views and sexual preferences out of the public's ears while promoting their movies? I do. I think that actors... Look, when you spend $200 million, or however much you spend, on a product... I think that when you're promoting a movie, by the way, they're paid to promote the movie. It's built into their contracts. They get part of what they're getting paid is to do promotion. So yes, look, I don't think anybody, just because I think anybody of any shape, size, color, creed, from any walk of life, we live in a democracy by the people, for the people. Every single person who's a part of our American experiment should have a political voice and be able to say whatever they want, whenever they want. But when you're an actor and you're a public persona and you're working for a company that's put $100 or $200 million behind you, I don't think espousing your political views, your sexual views, your social views on their time is wise. Because what you're doing then is you're politicizing somebody's entertainment. And the thing is, what's great about entertainment, what's great about movie theaters, you know what I love about movie theaters? It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter who or what you are. You know what I've never done? When someone sits down at me in a movie theater, I don't care what they look like. I don't care what color they are. I turn, smile at them. I go, hey, I want to make sure that we're not trying to use the same little drink holder. I smile at them because you know what? For this moment, we're all the same. We've all come to be entertained and see the same story, which means we have something in common. So when you're in a movie theater and you have the flotsam and jetsam of humanity all around you, I find it to be something very uplifting because we're all there. We all are fans of what we're about to see, which means they're my friends, which means we have common ground. And that is uplifting. Until some motherfucker turns up their camera or turns on their phone. I'm like, what the hell? You just ruined it for me. I don't want to know your politics, and I don't want to know what phone you use when you're in a movie theater. Put it away. Put it away. But yes, to answer your question, yes. Paul, is that Paul Mammer? Paul Mammer? Paul Mammer, 5329. Do you still trust Gunn's judgment of others' work after calling The Flash one of the best comic book movies and Supergirl's script being top-notch? Well, I like The Flash. I think The Flash got a bad rap for a lot of reasons, but I liked it. I thought it was really interesting and entertaining. Come at me, bro. But it was very different than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that we're 1 for 1 now with movies, so I would definitely be suspect. And I don't know why a first-time screenwriter would be hired to write this film. And they obviously had great problems in post making it work. 3 different composers, and it was clearly restructured. Pat for President has sent me $100 super chat. I don't know what to say to you. Pat, you get my vote. Thank you for that. That's very nice. Pat for President says, I've watched a movie every week since mid-April. I've watched a movie every week in the theater in the month, or in 2026. Every week. I watch a movie every week since mid-April. Super Mario Galaxy, Michael, The Devil Wears Prada 2, The Sheep Detectives, Mortal Kombat 2, Mandalorian and Grogu, Masters of the Universe, Scary Movie, Toy Story 5, and Supergirl. Supergirl was the only disappointment. Yeah, well, Supergirl was very disappointing to me. And I'm glad you're having a good time. I'm having a good time at the movies. As I said, this week I saw Supergirl, The Death of Robin Hood, and Girls Who Like Girls. And I liked Girls Who Like Girls, and I loved The Death of Robin Hood more than I like Supergirl. Why do you think that is? I don't know. Fan art exhibit says Supergirl. This is a really important point. Supergirl lacked anything to appeal to women. Wonder Woman was loved by women because it was a Disney princess film dressed up as a superhero film. That, my friend, is a very astute comment. You are absolutely correct about that. 100%. 100%. And you're right. You know, I mean, when Wonder Woman saw the baby, in England, incredible. I think that movie's great, and you're absolutely right. Shonen Kaiju has been a member of the channel for 24 months. Thank you for that. Whale Ping says, honestly, glad to be starting to turn away from anyone with a website and a YouTube channel. Supergirl is a solid 8 out of 10. Well, I mean, I think everybody can like anything that they want. I'm glad it worked for you. Everybody's experience of movies is different. But I think, look, even if you go back to the source material and you open up that comic, it had such beautiful artwork. And I think that alone, the fact that we didn't get anything like that, is a disappointing thing. So when you say you're going to turn away from anyone with a website and a YouTube channel, is that disparaging me because I didn't like the movie? I'm just saying. I mean, I'm trying to open up a discussion. I'm telling you what I think. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't like anything. So, Doc Civil says, hey, Rob, don't you think that Burning Man is just a mellower, more groovy version of Mad Max? Absolutely not. You know what Burning Man is? It's a bunch of very wealthy people who can't get off enough in their day-to-day life, so they need an excuse to go out to the playa, take off their clothes, take some drugs, run around, and act irresponsibly. Mad Max, the end of the world happened. So, and there was violence that would break out at any one moment. So it's not a mellower version. It's not a mellower, more groovy version. The people in Mad Max had nothing except the clothes on their backs and the tents they lived in. The people at Burning Man, they have everything. Everything. Pat for President has been a member for 29 months. Pat says, my 5 favorite films that I've watched over the past week are, in no particular order, Toy Story 5, The Sheep Detectives, The Devil Wears Prada 2, Michael, and Super Mario Galaxy. All of those movies I think are, to be honest, I haven't seen Super Mario Galaxy, but the others are all very respectable. Sheep Detectives is my favorite movie of the year so far. Craig Mazin's script. Toy Story 5 was wonderful. Devil Wears Prada was really good. And Michael, I thought Michael was a lot better than people give it credit for. I really enjoyed it. Art Mouse says I didn't see that you sent in something that when I was talking to Brian, I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention to anything that the chat was doing because I was concentrating on talking to him, so I apologize. Brian, how would you have explored Clark having a son in a sequel? Was the plan to create your own super family, not unite Gunn's universe? I think that's probably what he would have done. I mean, I had lots of conversations that summer about the sequel to Man of Steel, and my idea was to make his son Mordred, if you know your mythology, but I don't know if he would have gone for that. Whale Ping says, I have no objections to have people like me. Supergirl is a solid 10 out of 10. Well, that's good. But you should proudly be able to say whatever it is you liked. I like things that people don't like. I will die on the hill that Ridley Scott's extended version of The Counselor is a fucking masterpiece. Come at me, bro. No one loves that movie as much as I do. No one. No one. So you go right on calling Supergirl to 8 out of 10. Torn to Watch Studio says, since there's no physical media today, I'll ask now, how excited are you about Forbidden Planet 4K? Okay. If you had asked me in 2026 if I was going to get an announcement that Arrow Video was releasing both Forbidden Planet and Tequila Sunrise on the same day, I would have said, it's never going to happen. And fantastic. I can't wait. To get Forbidden Planet is going to look spectacular in 4K. And it's the prototype of Star Trek. What's not to love? I think that's why they're putting it out. What a perfect time to put out Forbidden Planet, just in time for Star Trek's 60th anniversary in September. The Real Thomas Logan, a guy who calls Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight films boring, thinks Batman 89 is crap, and wanted Paul Rubens as Thanos, should not be running the DC universe. Guns firing via the Ellisons will be both just and reasonable. Yeah, I don't know, but I didn't know that he feels that way. How can you say Nolan's super... I have to tell you, I don't think Batman or The Dark Knight Rises is great, but I love the first 45 minutes of that movie when all the pieces are being moved into position. I love that. There's too many goofy things in Dark Knight Rises, things that I don't understand, like why does Batman take the time to put his burning logo on the bridge? There's a lot. Are the cops really stuck underground for 100 days? There's a lot of goofy stuff in that movie, but that movie is pretty epic. It's pretty epic. I don't know how you think it was boring. There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. First of all, I love Anne Hathaway. She was great as Catwoman. She was great. Pat for President, why you have chosen to patronize me tonight in the most... I feel like I'm like Rembrandt back in the day, and you've become my patron, and I very much appreciate you doing that. That's very nice. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. Pat for President says, I'm about to be 30 in October. Well, Logan's Run, buddy. That's all I'm saying. You got to watch Logan's Run. Logan's Run is a movie about a guy turning 30. I'm about to be 30 in October. One thing I do when I watch a movie in the theater is turn off my phone. Namaste. Thank you. 1, I am paying. Therefore, I don't want to be disturbed. 2, I want to live in the world portrayed by the movie for the movie's runtime. I wish that everybody thought the same way that you do. Let me read that one more time. This is a man who's 29 years old. Pat for President says, 1, I'm paying, therefore I don't want to be disturbed. 2, I want to live in the world portrayed by the movie for the movie's runtime. I honestly feel I don't understand why people go to the movies and don't do that. Like, how do you not want to be immersed? The whole thing about a movie theater is it's for all intents and purposes, it's a sensory deprivation tank. The whole point of sitting in the dark is you don't want your peripheral vision, you get used to the exit signs. You're locked in. He's wired in. Mark. It's you just want to look at the screen. That's why when someone in a movie theater, when someone takes out their phone, it's so obtrusive because it's so dark, and when the light goes on, it's jarring. It's also rude. Well, what happens if the babysitter calls because there's a problem? I don't care. You can wait till you get home. There's nothing you can do about it now anyway. It's already too late, or, Anyway, I love that, Pat, for president. I think it's good. Mario from Portugal. Wasn't Portugal playing a World Cup game earlier tonight? Weren't they playing against? Who are they playing against? I think they were. I don't know. Mario from Portugal. First of all, Mario, how's your mom? And secondly, Rob, I've seen Sucker Punch on Netflix, and I love it. If this movie was from this year, would it be considered a woke girl boss or exploitation movie? I think it is a woke girl boss exploitation movie. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I don't only own Sucker Punch. I own the soundtrack, and I own Hot Toys figures from Sucker Punch. Do I think Sucker Punch is good? No. Do I love it? Yes. Go take that one to the bank. And Zack Snyder wrote that movie. So that's like pure uncut Zack Snyder. And do I think that movie's good? No. But I love it. See, that's the dichotomy right there. And since you saw it, I didn't realize Sucker Punch was on Netflix. Look, I think the messaging is very muddled in that movie. Just like I think the messaging is muddled at the end of Supergirl. What are we supposed to take away from Kara Zor-El at the end of Supergirl? What's the messaging there? I don't know. Whale Ping says, all this gender talk over an actually 8-10 Supergirl is annoying as fuck. Well, wait a minute. I don't think that, I understand you think the movie's 8 out of 10, but here, we're all about having a discussion. Now, the important thing is you might disagree with somebody, or all people, but, you have to listen to them and you have to understand, why do they feel that way? Nobody else's opinion should have any sway over yours when it comes to a movie or a book or entertainment of any kind. Entertainment hits people the way it hits. You can't allow anybody else to diminish or take away from how much you like something. I love the movie Tough Turf. 1985, directed by Fritz Kirsch, who directed Children of the Corn, stars Robert Downey Jr. and James Spader. Amen. Ultron and Iron Man themselves. Is Tough Turf good? No. But it is in my mind. It just hits me. It's a 50s gang movie that wants to be an 80s youth film that somehow has Robert Downey Jr. playing the drums and Olivia Barish from Repo Man's in it. And the gang leader is from the Roadmasters from the beginning of Streets of Fire. Jack Mack and the Heart Attacks in it. Don't even know how to explain it to you, but it's not great. I love it. Why doesn't Kino put Tough Turf out in 4K? Don't know. I hope it's coming. But look, we are here to talk. Whale Ping. We're here to have conversations. That's what this channel is all about. Lawrence Tuck. Hope you stop in at Comic-Con next month. Oh, I'll be at Comic-Con. And by the way, thank you for supporting. Oh, wait, Lawrence Tuck? Is that what it is? Thank you again. That's a $50 super chat. That's very, very generous. Thank you so much. I will be at Comic-Con. I promise. I'm doing a number of panels. We got Starship Smackdown. I think I'm on Chris Gore's panel. I'm doing a panel with the Comic Doctor about Canadian variant comics. Something I didn't know anything about, but they exist. Retromeister says, I'll say that Jason Momoa had a better comic book-like role as the villain Dante in Fast X, who's portrayed as the Brazilian Heath Ledger Joker in it. I never thought about that, but you're not wrong. Yeah, he's having a great time. But boy, man, Fast 9 and Fast X, can't. It's just so hard. Mr. Plainview says, Do you think the Batman's act was formulaic? A little bit. You know, I think a lot of climaxes to a lot of movies are relatively formulaic when the shit goes down. Even a lot of the genre books I read, like horror novels, you know, the first 2/3 are great, and then the horror needs to be defeated. Whatever the great evil is needs to be defeated, and it's hard to come up with something that's not formulaic when you're dealing with the takedown of a villain or saving the city after the levees break. I mean, it's a little formulaic. Jurassic Joey has been a member of the channel for 26 months. Well, thank you for that. Pat for President says, I'm excited to see Minions and Monsters. You know, I'll tell you, we saw a long extended trailer for that at CinemaCon, and I didn't realize it has an early Hollywood, like the very beginnings of Hollywood element to it. And I thought it was hilarious what they showed us. I really am looking forward to seeing it. I'm excited to see Minions and Monsters, Young Washington, Moana, The Odyssey. Extremely tempted to see it in IMAX. Oh, you have to. And Spider-Man Brand New Day. Spider-Man is my most anticipated 2026 summer movie in the coming weeks. I think it's a really strong lineup. I think they're all going to be good films. And I think they're all probably going to make a lot of money. So I think we're all in for some good work. D's Webos has been a member of the channel for 44 months. Thank you. Whale Ping for a $20 super chat. Thank you. You've been very supportive tonight, sir, or lady, or I should say, however you identify across the 28 known galaxies. By the way, Whale Ping, how excited are you to see Whale Fall? Oh my God, straight to the top of movies I want to see. No one talks about the duality between Superman and Supergirl. No one factors how Clark was raised by the Kents to look forward to the future while Supergirl was raised on a dying planet. No one talks about it. Fakes. Well, I mean, I don't know, because we didn't see enough of that in the movie. I would love to have seen a scene where they discuss that very thing. Mario from Portugal says, I don't care what anyone thinks. Sucker Punch is 10 out of 10. Amen. Amen. Floating Kites 2420 said, Rob Gunn said all of that stuff 14 years ago, I would imagine, because, you know, Dark Knight Rises came out a while ago. So, Pat for President says the writing of Supergirl was just horrifying. Millie Alcock's performance as Supergirl was one of the few things that kept me from tapping my metaphorical watch. I also enjoyed Lobo and Ruthie's performances. I did too. I thought Millie Alcock was great. I'm a big fan. I was disappointed by the lack of imagination on display. And I was the movie should have given me a sense of wonder, of cosmic wonder, and it didn't. I was very surprised by that. And Pat for President goes on to say, I watched Logan's Run in government class during my senior year of high school. Same with Ants. Both were very captivating and thought-provoking experiences. I wish I could have watched Pressure in a theater. I did. I watched Pressure in a theater. I liked it. That's amazing. I love that you watched Logan's Run and Ants in government class, which is appropriate. I want to know, who did that? Kudos to somebody who put that together. FGDJ says, the message at the end of Supergirl is, thanks for watching, stick around for future films, get an HBO subscription, read the comics, and buy the action figures. I don't know if the movie was strong enough to give people that message, but, you know, maybe you're not wrong. Let's see what we got Tack sends in a tip. Tack sends in a tip and says, hang on, I just lost my place. Tack, sorry about that. Tack says, it's way too early into the DCU to have a movie this mediocre. Building back a brand takes a lot of hard, good work, and a movie this meh can kill the momentum that Superman built. Very disappointed. Gunn and Safran let this happen without intervention. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Blocked by Rob. Hey, Rob, on a scale of 5 erections, how many erections did Supergirl give you? I've heard from a very reliable source that you got a semi when Supergirl ate the alien slug poop. 2 girls, 1 slug. I'm not counting the semi you got when Kara beat you up. First of all, why semi? Even at my age, dude, I am always posting hard at 45 degrees. That's all I'm telling you. There's no semis here. All right? I might not be the biggest guy. I might not have the biggest gun in the holster, but it's never semi. So, banish those things from your thoughts. Do I get a semi? The problem was I didn't get any in this movie. Dieter Bastian is in the house because he's not going to be in the house tomorrow. I hope you're out of the house right now. I hope you're in a fountain somewhere cooling off. Dieter says, hey, Rob, on Citizen Vigilante, the topic is hot. The movie is trash. As expected. Not much makes sense story-wise. People may like that Uwe Boll is bringing the issue to the forefront. It doesn't equal or translate automatically into a good movie. And the movie is not banned in Germany. It just didn't make it through the ratings board with an 18 certificate. That happens often. CV is not a regular case. But congrats to Uwe exploring that fact and turning it into the best promotion for garbage. Stubble McShave is here and points out that today, Sunday, Mel Brooks, Dark Helmet's creator, turns 100. What do you think of him, and what is your favorite movie of his? Mine is probably High Anxiety. I love High Anxiety. I love To Be or Not to Be. I think probably I got to go with Blazing Saddles. I'll tell you a quick Mel Brooks story. So when we were going to do Free Enterprise 2, and it looked like we were going to get it made, it was going to happen, I wanted Mel Brooks to play a small part in the film. And a crucial but small part. And we sent him the script, and we didn't hear from him. And I got his number. I got the number of his office, and I called his office. And I figured nobody, I'd talk to his assistant or something. And Mel Brooks himself answered the phone. He's like, hello? I said, Mr. Brooks? He goes, yeah, who's this? And I said, my name's Robert Burnett. We sent you this script for a movie called Free Enterprise, The Wrath of Shatner. And he's like, listen, kid, I appreciate your chutzpah for calling me and sending me a script, but know something. I don't guest star in other people's movies. I only guest star in my own movies. And he was very funny. And he was very nice. But that was my one and only actual interaction and with Mel Brooks. And since it's already tomorrow it's going to be tomorrow here in 2 minutes. Happy birthday, Mel Brooks. 100 years today. Amazing. Him and Carl Reiner's comedy routines, fantastic. Anonymous says, can we talk about how Zack Snyder presents the DC Universe's Greek mythology mixed with Rockwell style of Americana? Best example is the montage in Batman v Superman after Superman dies, with the shots around Metropolis and Kansas with the casserole table. Well, I mean, that's fair. Yeah, I like some of it. Some of it I think is a little heavy-handed. Michael Bay does the same stuff. It's just Michael Bay has never made a superhero movie. But I'll tell you what, if Michael Bay made a Superman movie, I would watch the hell out of it. Absolutely would. Absolutely would. I have a few letters to read, but you know what? I think I'm going to save them. I will save them because I think there's one I want to feature, and I don't want it to be lost at the end of a 2-hour show. I'm going to keep these. I won't read any letters tomorrow, but if you do want to write a letter to me, you can at Robservations at rmburnett1701@gmail.com. Just remember to put Robservations in the heading and the subject. Tell me what you want to talk about. And so there is no Let's Get Physical Media tomorrow. For those of you who don't know, we have an ongoing original National Screen Service Corporation. National Screen Service Corporation was the company that made all of the movie posters for all the studios up until about 1984. I have a friend who for 45 years was sitting on this cache of posters that he took from National Screen when they were closing their Seattle store, and he gave it to me. And we have been running a poster. We have some auctions going, but a poster sale of all of these posters from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. We've dropped science fiction, fantasy, horror, Bond, Hitchcock, Barbra Streisand. We dropped Woody Allen this week, classic Woody Allen. So if you're interested and want to check something out or get something, I'd appreciate it. And it comes, it's at the eBay store. Find Your Niche. By the way, 100% eBay seller. Find Your Niche, and we're going to be dropping stuff throughout the rest of the summer. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of cool Bond stuff left that's really hard to find. There's, I think, the Live and Let Die 6-sheet that's 81 inches by 81 inches. A lot of great stuff. If you want original movie posters, there's some original Star Wars posters, original Star Wars A-style one-sheets, the Tom Jung one-sheets. They're there. I think there's 2 of them. And so check that out if you're interested. Find Your Niche. The eBay store, it's called Find Your Niche. And then underneath, there's R&B's Imagination Connoisseurs. That's a sub-store. And if you go in there, you can see all the posters. There's hundreds of posters of all kinds. There's lots of crazy stuff. So check that out. And you can still get my audio drama True Noir wherever you want. Our movie White Devils that I'm working on comes out in January, the feature film. And it stars Johnny Coyne, who played our Imperial Lord in Mandalorian and Grogu. So he's in that. So that's exciting. And then my book project that I'm working on that will be available hopefully September 8th. I will be able to tell you all about. Yes, I've written a book. And we'll talk about that soon. I just want to make sure that the manuscript is entirely done. Mario from Portugal says, people don't understand the plot of Sucker Punch. They only see the hot girls and cool action scenes. Yes. But the best part, but the rest of the Psychiatric Institute is the best part of the movie. I'm not going to argue with you. I agree, and I love that you're trying to find the good in that movie, as you should. There's a lot of really incredible visuals in it. Pat for President says, I'm very excited for July 4th. I have my outside heavily decorated with patriotic lights. I have also been collecting the circulating coins. Coin collecting is my vice. I used to collect coins when I was a kid. Coins were, I had a great penny collection and a great collection of quarters. And back in 1976, they had a really great bicentennial coin set. They had, I think it was a 50-cent piece. It might have been a silver dollar, a 50-cent piece, and a quarter. And it came in a lucite America, like the map of America, but it was just plastic and with the coins inside. It was cool. Marco Esquindola has missed the member chat today, so sad. Next time, well, I'm going to have a lot more. I'm going to try and catch up, so maybe do a couple, not next week because it's a holiday weekend, obviously, but after that, I'm going to try and catch up during the month of July. July is a great month. I'll see a lot of you at Comic-Con, I hope. And, yeah. And I'll be back, by the way. I will be doing another Robservations tomorrow. Hopefully this week will be the week when the Robservatory changes around a little bit. And, yeah. And on that note, everybody, I think I'm going to bring this chat to an end. I want to thank all of you for being here, talking about Supergirl. And I can't believe the outpouring of financial support from you guys via Super Chats, tips, and member chats and all the things you guys do. It's amazing. Keeps the channel going and all of that. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming up. We're going to start some new shows on this channel. Me and Alvaro are going to do a show called The Forever Era. And the premise of the show is we're going to be sharing things with you that we think are eternally great. Things that imagination connoisseurs love, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's books, whether it's comics. Could be anything. But we want to create a wide-reaching personal canon of cool shit that you might not love all of it, but we would recommend. Everybody's always asking me what I recommend, books, movies. This is going to be a show where we talk about just the things we love, and we're adding it to what we call the Forever Era. These are things that we believe should be forever great. They will comprise the canon of great stuff forever. Hence the Forever Era. So we hope you join us for that. Dieter Bastian and I and Max Allen Collins will be back. Well, we might not be back next week because it's a holiday weekend. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. By the way, for you physical media fiends, Severin is having a sale, Kino is having a sale, and Criterion is having their Barnes & Noble sale. 50% off all those juicy 4Ks. So if you're interested in physical media, as we are, as you can see, there's just stacks of physical media all around here. Over there, there's thousands. I'm not kidding. Anyway, that's all. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say to all of you imagination connoisseurs, have a better night, and I'll see you back here for Robservations episode 1111 tomorrow. Thanks very much.